Let's be honest, there's no guidebook when it comes to relationships. So we end up having to stumble through life trying to figure things out for ourselves. What if there was a podcast that found the answers for you, that provided insight to build a successful relationship and ultimately find the companionship you've always hoped for? Welcome to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we answer the questions most people are afraid to ask when it comes to lessons in life and love. It's time to master this thing called life together with your hosts, John and Ashley.
And welcome back to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we are your guide to love, life, dating, relationships. We'll throw in the COVID virus and all the weird-ass weather stuff because, shit, we might as well be responsible for that too.
Right.
This week, we're going to be talking to you about your true love language. We've talked in the past about character and personality and how they are separate. Character is who you are, and personality is what you show the world. So your personality is regulated by your character. So this is why hypnotists cannot hypnotize somebody into doing something that they find morally wrong. But what does this have to do with love languages? Well, as with everything that we do, it has a lot to do with it.
Now, before we get too far into this, you need to know that this has nothing to do with that popular book that you may be thinking of. This is so much deeper. Now, our coursework, we go way into this. I mean, we get deep, deep, deep. But this is a vital component to a healthy relationship, and we wanted to give you something that you could work with. So I think we should first get everyone on the same page so we have a common starting point.
Possibly the best way to do this is to give a scenario that most people might be familiar with. So you go out and you meet someone. Your emotions start to run high. Everything seems to be perfect and the sex is great, and then everything flatlines a few weeks later. So it's like things are okay, but the want isn't really there anymore. Something is kind of off. The connection just isn't there, but you want it to be. Does this sound familiar to anybody?
Sounds familiar to me. So I guess the question would be, where is that disconnect? And what causes that disconnect? I think that's what we should probably look at and talk about when we talk about your true love language. Now, before we get into that, we want you to know that there are two love languages anyone can have. You're either a verbal or a nonverbal. When we talk in the aspect of love languages, you can either speak, touch, or be touched. That's it. Beyond that, there's not really much any other person can do.
Right. I've glanced through the whole love languages book and everything, and in my opinion, it's kind of convoluted. It kind of fits, but it kind of only fits with like half-truths.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to give you an illustration so that this whole thing makes sense to you. We talked to some clients and we got their permission to use their love language profile in a hypothetical situation. The reason we're using hypothetical situation is that we do not reveal anything about any active clients in any form or fashion. We take privacy extremely serious. However, with a little hocus pocus and some magic pixie dust, we have something that may seem familiar to a lot of you out there.
Okay. So let's talk about Robert and Rebecca. You want to talk about them?
Yeah. Their love languages, while they are not currently going out with each other, they're two totally separate people. Their love languages, when you combine them into a relationship, it makes perfect sense.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So Robert and Rebecca, going out 3 years and married for 2. So 5 total, right?
Right.
Their relationship is okay. It's just kind of like,
Yeah, kind of that blah feeling.
Yeah. You know, the excitement was there once, it's gone. And they're really scared that, like, this is basically what the rest of their lives is going to be. This is all they have to look forward to. They both know this isn't going to work in the long term. So, in other words, their relationship is flatline.
Yeah.
Let's put it in, like, what Robert's feeling. Robert feels rejected by Rebecca. And Rebecca feels like Robert no longer trusts her. It's not that they don't love each other, because there's love there. We've seen the love there. The problem is they don't desire each other anymore. And what we want to do is figure out why.
Exactly. Well, there are 3 reasons for this. Now, the simple and easy answer is that the unfamiliar has become familiar. So you go out and you talk to some of these gurus and some of the other experts. Their simple solution is to do something or create something that injects a little unfamiliar into the relationship. The problem with that is that anything that is done at this level is going to be short-lived and isn't going to fix the underlying problem. So we need to go a little bit deeper.
So we need to start with Robert. So to understand Robert, we need to get a general understanding of men in general. It's no secret at all that men are like visual creatures. I mean, men, if they see what they want, they are focused, they got tunnel vision. But the problem is men are taught to be stoic and compartmentalize and not show their feelings or emotions, or they're considered weak by society. And that puts us in the ballpark of most men's love language is going to be physical.
Yeah.
Because from what we've seen, I can guarantee you if Rebecca, like when we talk about the gurus and the short living, if Rebecca got a haircut, put on a sexy dress, put some candles in, and had a sexy night with Robert, that little unfamiliar would work for a small amount of time.
Yeah. We get into it inside the course. It's way too much to do inside of a show. But guys are like, she's hot. Let's go.
Cavemen.
Yeah.
Right. Cavemen.
But we are not at Robert's love language just yet. All we really have is a language type. We have a country, but we do not have Robert's accent. There's a little bit more there. In the United States, you can tell somebody who's from New York versus somebody who comes from Texas. There's an accent. So we start by asking Robert about his past. Nothing is too revealing until we get into his family life. He came from a home where his father was drug addicted and abusive towards his mother. He became highly protective of his mother, and we got this from his descriptions. And it revealed that she leaned on him for her own emotional validation.
Basically, what happened was Robert became very attuned to how his mother felt and wouldn't say or do anything that would remotely add to her pain. Yeah. He would not ever try and hurt his mother any when she was already being hurt. Then as we go through all his other relationships, we can see how this emotional protection affected the way he loves his relationships and his current relationship with Rebecca. I mean, Robert has a problem vocalizing certain emotions because in his mind, these feelings and emotions could potentially hurt her. And since he can't verbalize this, Rebecca feels like he can't trust her.
Yeah, because there's conversations where Rebecca's asking Robert for how his day went or why he's upset. And he can't verbalize that to her. And that is an element of trust that he should be able to tell her anything. And because he can't, it becomes a trust issue on her side. It's not that he doesn't trust her. He just doesn't know how to speak of what he is feeling. So he speaks with his body. Now we start reversing the roles. Rebecca, on the other hand, only speaks in a verbal language, not a physical language. So Rebecca, on the other hand, she grew up in what we would call a stereotypical family. Dad worked, mom stayed at home. As she got older, Dad would introduce her to his friends and other friends of the family about how beautiful she looked. And then mom reminded her that boys only wanted one thing from pretty girls.
Oh, God, that's terrible.
This constant reinforcement from an early age, Rebecca started having a complex about hearing how beautiful she is from Robert. She feels uncomfortable with any mention of her physical beauty by him.
So basically what you're saying, like as she grew older, boys started to notice, like every teenage boy, they start to notice that you're growing breasts and making comments about them. I mean, every girl deals with this. Ugh. And she became uncomfortable with it. Dudes will snap your bra and do like weird shit for no reason. And it's not that she doesn't enjoy the feeling of being touched. It's that the thought that goes through her mind is this all he wants? So when Robert talks about how beautiful Rebecca is, or starts to get sort of physical with her, she shuts down. And Robert is like, well, what did I do wrong? You know, I love you. You're my wife. And it's you see the disconnect there, guys?
Yeah, he starts feeling rejected. You're my wife. I should be able to do this, but you're shutting down and pushing me away. So there are two different love languages going on here, but there's no interpreter that can be found. So how can we possibly get the desire that they once had back into their lives if they speak two totally different love languages? It's like a person who speaks English and another person who speaks Mandarin Chinese. How are you supposed to communicate? There is a way, but that's a totally different subject. So what we'll get into in just a second But just so that you know, a single person who is not yet dating or they aren't in the dating scene, you need to know what your love language is, how you communicate, and how you need to be communicated to. This will help you later on in making these deep connections and keeping that desire in your relationship from the beginning.
On the converse, if you're in a committed relationship or if you're married, knowing your love language and that of your partners, you'll be able to speak their language and interpret theirs to keep that flame alive. Now, as we've mentioned before, in any relationship, there's 3 entities people work with. There's me, there's them, and there's us.
Right. So how do we get Robert and Rebecca to properly interpret what the other is saying or feeling? Well, a simple exercise that most of us learned in school that was developed by Benjamin Franklin, the pros and cons list. We're going to add a little bit of a twist to this thing. On a sheet of paper, Robert and Rebecca answered some very simple questions. When I love, I. When I desire, I. When I feel close, I. And when I feel in the mood, I. What they're doing is they're answering these questions and they're just filling in the rest of the statement. Now, there's a multitude of questions that can be asked about what you do and when you want to be close and or the expression of affection to your partner or your potential partner. But then we asked the opposite question. When I don't feel in love, I. When I don't desire, I. When I don't feel close, I. And when I don't feel in the mood, I.
Yeah, and so then Robert and Rebecca exchanged papers and they were able to see what the other person does with each question. So Robert, for instance, he gets very touchy and cuddly when he feels close or in the mood for Rebecca. He wants to hold her. He wants to tell her how beautiful he finds her. However, this is exactly what places Rebecca's mind in the space that shuts her down.
Right. And if you listen to our past episode and we start talking about desire and where in your head you go, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is where this fits in with that, because you're not relying on the other person to put you in the mood. It's the place that you go in your mind that connects with your body that puts you in the mood. So that's where our connection comes into this. Now, Rebecca, on the other hand, she starts verbalizing how she feels early in the day and wants Robert to talk and share with her. Robert doesn't know how to do this effectively, and he starts feeling protective over Rebecca's feelings. He is assuming full accountability for how she feels. This leads him to feel frustrated, and then he shuts down. Now, this isn't their fault, though. They were never taught or shown how to discover their love language before getting into a relationship. This isn't something that's taught in school. It's not taught by society. And historically, we are told you will figure it out and learn to love them more.
How's that really working out?
Yeah, really.
You have a 50% divorce rate for your first marriage and like 65% for the second marriage.
Right. And so with Robert and Rebecca, a third love language had to be developed that both of them could understand. And with first marriages, it depends on the statistics that you're looking at. It's 50 to 53%. And for people who get married or enter into a second marriage, yeah, it's 65% to, I think, around 69. It's almost 70%, depending on who you look at. It's
Jesus.
insane.
Yeah, it's uncalled for.
I kind of think it's still far better cry than you marry this person, you'll meet them on your wedding day.
Right.
Okay. But first, Robert had to understand and become comfortable for not holding himself accountable for Rebecca's feelings. Not something that's easily done, since this is deeply rooted in a consistently reinforced attribute of his. It is repeated time after time after time in almost every single one of his relationships.
And Rebecca had to understand and be comfortable with Robert finding her physically attractive.
Yeah.
Again, that's something not easily done because of this deep, deep-rooted feeling of insecurity.
Right.
So the first steps, of course, were baby steps. We're just starting out in the kiddie pool, and we're getting our feet wet. This was discussing the intention and the authenticity behind their actions on the first sheet of paper. and the reactions of the other person.
Right. Then we were able to start creating a language that each person can understand. Robert can slightly adjust his coming to Rebecca by expressing how she makes him feel instead of how attractive she is. Also adjusting the placement of his hands and where he touches when he starts to get physical. Now, Rebecca, on the other hand, she sees Robert as trying his best to protect her emotions. She can't expect a whole lot in the beginning, but with Robert expressing how she makes him feel is a good start. And with Robert now being able to understand how and why Rebecca shares her emotions, his feelings of rejection are greatly diminished.
Exactly. The two now have a new, unknown language and a new level of vulnerability with each other that they can really explore. I mean, think about how exciting that is. Instead of just calling it quits, you create an entirely new way to love each other. That's really fun.
What was unknown is now starting to become revealed. So there's that level of excitement where you're able to see the other person a little bit differently. And you're starting to learn something about them that they were previously unable to share. And
exactly.
That level of trust where Robert didn't exactly understand why Rebecca kept pushing him away, but now he sees that it's something that she was exposed to and learned, and it was reinforced throughout her relationships and those insecurities that she had. She's able to see where he is emotionally protective of her. That's something that he has to learn to let go and trust that she can take care of herself. So all of this starts coming together.
And that's brilliant. Now, obviously, this isn't the end-all be-all to every couple. Every couple's unique. Every couple's different. This is one type of solution to a common problem. I mean, this isn't something we don't see every day.
Right.
It's just simply one person not understanding the other person. This is why we concentrate on the individual first.
Right.
If you know your love language and what gets you in the correct headspace to start with, then you are better able to create and keep that desire alive.
Yeah. It's one of those where if you look at it and you start seeing where the other person is coming from and understanding that, but really with working with the individual first, they know what's causing the problem. They know what's at the root of it. And then they can start working on that problem. It's almost like you look at who you are today, who your ideal self is, and then you have this gap in the middle. And inside that gap is all of your weaknesses, all of your insecurities, all of your strengths that you are not totally 100% aware of or that you are comfortable with. And until you can build that out to get from where you are today to the person that you see yourself as and crossing that divide, that's the major problem that there is. So the chances of your relationship flatlining with this go down. The better you're able to understand yourself and where you come from, the better you are able to share yourself with someone else. And the trust level and the connection becomes deeper and a lot more meaningful. The more you're able to explore each other at different levels, both physically and emotionally, the better off your relationship is.
I agree. All right, always, guys, don't forget to like, rate, share, subscribe, tell your mother, tell your friends, tell everybody you know about the show. We love doing the show. I promise you, this episode we're recording right now is a fever dream of an episode.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into all of this, and people wonder why we don't share everything that we have. Well, for one reason, it's too much to actually put into any one episode. Just one piece of this can literally fill like 8-9 hours. And even then, because it's broken between different episodes, you probably won't get a full concept of it, let alone be able to implement it. The second reason, we're probably going to follow that up next week. We got a doozy of an episode coming at you where we look at why you don't want to go out there and look at being a pickup artist and then doing what this guy does. Holy shit. I mean, this is like...
next week.
Yeah, this guy is...
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it starts off kind of creepy, and then it goes to pretty much dead bodies in the backyard to finishing off full Hannibal Lecter.
And the scary thing is you don't even know if this guy is just trolling but I'm pretty sure he's not.
Oh no, he definitely is not. This guy he is for real.
Full-blown creep.
Yeah. So yeah, you're going to want to tune in next week for that one. But that is one reason that we don't reveal everything, because a lot of what we do teach could be turned into being very manipulative. That's why we really concentrate on filling that gap that I mentioned. If you fill that gap and you become the person that you want to be, you become very magnetic for the people that you want to meet. And you don't have to do this creepy shit that we're going to be sharing on the next episode.
Oh my God. It's so scary. It's so uncomfortable. And when I learned about it, I was like, the fuck? I gotta tell John.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole that we are still going down. And it's very uncomfortable. I was watching one of his videos today, and I literally want to put my fist through the screen. I'm a very nice person. I'm very respectful until I see something like this, and I take my nice and respectful hat off, and I put on I'm going full dickhead on you with absolutely no remorse whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, like, rate, share, subscribe, share your comments, share your reviews. We love the reviews. They kind of give us an ego boost. I like that.
Me too. And today, I need it. So you guys just tell us this show is the best show you've ever heard, and we'll believe you.
Yes. And our numbers will back it up.
It's true.
And with that, we will talk to you on the next one.
That's all for this episode of the Girls Ask Guys show, where all of us learn to master this thing called life together. For more answers to your questions on life and love, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And head to girlsaskguyshow.com to submit your questions for a future episode or apply to be a guest on the show. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Girls Ask Guys show.